Alright, time to talk about why anime sucks and why you suck if you watch it.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Okay, maybe that's a tad harsh, but let me explain. At first, I was going to make this video as a purely observational piece about Eastern versus Western writing, the differences between both, but the more I wrote, the more I realized that I just really don't like anime anymore, and people will get way more mad at me talking about that. So that's what this video is about now. The last video essay style video I did got pretty good views, and I didn't know what else I wanted to talk about, but with anime being more popular than ever, I think it's about time I piss off some filthy casuals. Just a disclaimer, I'm mainly referring to shonen in this video, the action genre of anime, since it's the most mainstream and it's what I'm most commonly recommended. I've watched my fair share of other genres though, and the problems I'm about to discuss do seem to carry over, just not quite as much. For context, I grew up on anime. I watched Naruto on Jetix in the UK when I was fucking 6 years old or something, and then went on to Bleach, and then a bunch of other shows which I definitely should not have been watching. So I've got skin in the game, and I used to watch a lot. I think from the ages of 9 to 14, I'd say aside from YouTube, anime was probably about 80% of the content I consumed. So if anybody thinks what I'm about to say is colonizer propaganda, it is, but I've also got every reason to be on the side of anime. I grew up with it far more than I grew up with Western cartoons or media. But then I went to college, and I did film and media, and I started to actually watch stuff. And I mean, really watch stuff. I started to learn how things clicked, what the rules were, how people break them, and for a long time I sort of fell off of anime. I just had a whole new world opened up to me that I got lost in. Call that isekai. Sorry. And when I came back, because a new wave of anime was starting to rear its head, something was different. The rules kept being broken, but not in cool and interesting ways, in ways that had been done thousands of times before. I had no idea how I didn't notice it till now, but the same tropes just seemed to be inescapable, and they started to piss me off. At first I thought maybe I'm just getting older, I've outgrown it, but I knew that couldn't be right, because I had friends older than me who started watching anime around the same time as me, who were still loving it, and anime was starting to become cool enough that people of all ages were consuming it as well. So I raked my brain, but I just couldn't figure it out. Everybody knows that anime has a very distinct style. There's a reason why people can parody it so easily, and why it never translates well into live action. But what about that style is so different? Why is it so memeable? I think I got it. At least the meat of it. The golden rule of writing is show, don't tell. That rule does not exist in anime. Here's an example. Inglourious Basterds is one of the best films of all time, from one of the best directors of all time. There's minor spoilers coming up, but if you haven't seen it yet, it's your own fault, to be honest. It came out 15 fucking years ago. There's a scene where some American/Jewish spies are trying to sneak into a Nazi event. They do this by impersonating some Italians. You don't need to know the details, just stick with me here. Anyway, a Nazi colonel has essentially figured them out, but how do we know this? It's not anime, so there's no 8-minute fucking time-stopped monologues to tell us what everyone's thinking. So we have to use clues. We also know from previous scenes that the colonel is kind of a cocky dickhead, so he enjoys fucking with people and playing with them. So what do we do with these two pieces of information? We reveal to the audience that he knows the soldier's secret by making him fuck with them. It's pretty absurd to ask someone to repeat their own name so many times, but the real kicker is when he congratulates him on his own accent. There's no world where you would applaud someone for telling you their own name in their own accent. Even then, this is relatively subtle. You can miss this on a couple of viewings. It's only later confirmed why he didn't just immediately arrest them and thwart their plan. Now mirror this with an anime equivalent in Death Note. And for the record, I fucking love Death Note. The show is genius in its own right, and there are plenty of themes which are explored and shown, not told. Like Light's God complex and his parallels to Jesus. But this is the best example I could find as to the whole tell don't show thing. I don't need to go into much depth because if you're watching this video on anime, you've probably already seen the show. But basically, Light's a serial killer, the most successful in history, and L is trying to figure out how to prove it because, let's be honest, he already knows. How is this shown? Well, it's not really. It's told. We're privy to both their trains of thought, and the cool part about Death Note is watching the mental sparring and seeing the elaborate game of chess unravel. But these are two titans of the industry. One of the best films ever, one of the best animes ever. It makes sense that they both work, even though they're on completely opposite ends of the spectrum. So what are some negative examples? It can certainly happen in movies or Western TV too. It's not like people don't make fun of the whole villain revealing his plot to the hero trope. But in anime, it's so painfully common, and it doesn't ever seem to get punished. These tropes appear even in the most popular shows. For example, if I have to see one more crazy character stick his fucking tongue out or lick up some blood like his fucking Kool-Aid, then I might just try it to see Wagwan. The worst example I've ever seen is Alice in Borderlands, because it's one of the more popular Asian shows on Netflix in recent history, and everybody was recommending it to me, claiming it was a better version of Squid Game. So I thought, fuck it, why not? Listen to me when I tell you, this is the worst fucking show I've ever seen. That one's gonna piss off a lot of people. But I'll stand on business for this. 10 toes, dick swinging, top of my lungs, fuck this show. I can think of 3 characters just off the top of my head that have one pose, one facial expression, and one personality trait the entire way through. I didn't know it was originally a manga, so I started to think maybe Eastern writing as a whole is just dog. But then I found out it was just another terrible adaptation and it started as a manga, so my faith in humanity was a little bit restored. But again, this show was popular. Very popular. Looking at Western shows and mediums, again, the tropes are there, but you wouldn't get away with being top of the charts by being so one-dimensional and predictable. So I did a little digging. I went on a mission to find one anime/manga and one live action show from the East that followed Western rules to see if it was still enjoyable and if it was still well received. And boy did I fucking find them. We'll start with Berserk because it's one of the greatest things I've ever read, and you probably already know what it is. First things first, this show doesn't tell you shit. The relationship between Guts and Griffith and their obsession with one another is the cornerstone of the majority of the series. At first, it's Guts obsessing with becoming Griffith's equal, inspired by his dream and his individuality. Once he finally gains his own sense of purpose, it transfers. Griffith's obsession with him being... Fuck, it's hard to say Griffith this many times in a row. Griffith's obsession with him being a perfect king of a perfect kingdom is no longer possible, because even though he technically no longer needs him, it's not perfect without Guts there. So to regain power over him, Griffith does some questionable things, and none of this is said. This is all subtext. This is all clues. It's all symbolism. It's all shown, not told. And I'm pretty sure I don't need to tell you how well received Berserk is. So that's one box ticked. I found a manga which sheds the trope hell that seems to plague the medium. And it's very obvious that I'm not the only one who needed that breath of fresh air. But what about live action? I must admit, I haven't watched a ton of Japanese live action, so for all I know, it's a lot less tropey than anime. But the only case study I had to go on was absolute dog shit. Then I saw Netflix recommended me another Japanese show. Okay, I like martial arts, don't know much about sumo, doesn't seem to have any anime related ties, it's well received. Okay, maybe what I was looking for found me. All that's left now is just to watch it. What a fucking banger. If I told you to write me the most stereotypical anime protagonist you can, what kind of qualities would you give them? Mid to late teens, cocky, brash, hot-headed, simple-minded, kinda dumb, motivated, super earnest, friend-orientated, etc. And then there's Oze. Oh, he's cocky, alright. Brash too. Definitely hot-headed. I don't know about dumb, but he's not smart. But he's probably all that other stuff too, right? Right? Oze is a lazy asshole. There's no other way to say it. He's bad at sumo. He's bad at flirting. He's bad at school. He's bad at friends. He's a delinquent loser, and he knows it. And oh my god, it's so satisfying. It's not like he's completely irredeemable. We see why he is the way he is. But at the beginning, there's pretty much no reason why this guy should succeed. So he doesn't. And I don't want to spoil too much, but considering how often themes like hard work, struggle, and ambition come up in anime, it's crazy how often those same things are completely downplayed and downright disrespected in anime. Meanwhile, everything in this show feels earned and fresh. Oze doesn't just start out as a perfect vessel for his journey. He develops. And guess what? We're shown his development, not told about it. In conclusion, I don't really know what the fuck this video is about. I wanted to talk about Western and Eastern writing. Then I realized the difference might not be in the writing, but in the reception. Then I realized most of the issues are only really to do with anime. Then I realized there are a lot of animes that are exceptions, but aren't necessarily as popular. And I don't know, I just want to fucking complain. I'm British, bro, that's what we do. But I still love anime. There's a lot of things it does better than live action. The pure style and freedom of expression is too cool to ignore. I was just getting frustrated at seeing the same shit over and over and over again with barely anybody trying to break the rules in fun and interesting ways. There are some things which are getting better though, like Tanjiro and Deku are still earnest and motivated, but they're also pretty smart and humble. Blue Lock is a really cool spin on the themes of ambition and ego. Haikyuu is very adamant on developing characters physically and emotionally. Honestly, after my last video essay did pretty well, I just got excited and wanted to get the stuff off my chest as soon as possible. Let me know if you agree or disagree, and if this video gets enough views, I'll do another one explaining why Ichigo is a better character than any of the other big three. I'm not joking.